Kamito Kazehaya is the main protagonist of this anime. He is the only boy who attends the girls' academy. On his way, Kamito met a female student whose name was Claire. Then the female student immediately attacked him because Kamito saw his body parts while taking a bath. But the attack didn't work and instead hit the tree behind Claire. Since it would be very dangerous, Kamito decided to immediately save her. Even though he was saved, Claire still couldn't forgive him. She told Kamito to submit to her while threatening with the fire elemental. Then Claire asked why Kamito was in the academy's territory. Kamito answered getting a call from the principal. He was lost in the forest area because the area was too large. Before returning to the academy, they went to a place called Kuya Offerings. There Claire intends to enter into a contract with the spirit weapon sealed within. Kamito said the sealed spirit was extremely dangerous, and maybe they will kill their lord if something goes wrong. Claire already knew that, but he would still do it because it needed more strength. Not long after that, the thing that Kamito feared actually happened. Just after Claire pulled out the swords, the blades got out of control and attacked the two of them. That's why Claire immediately did something to tame him. But all his efforts were not successful. In the end, it was Kamito who intervened and made a contract with the sword spirit. Claire wondered why a man like Kamito could do it, even better than him. However, since his target weapon had been taken by Kamito, Claire asked Kamito to become the contract router and serve him. Thanks to the direction of Claire, Kamito was able to get to the academy. But because Claire forced him to become a contract router, Kamito secretly ran away and left him. Then when Kamito was in the principal's office, he was ordered to transfer to the academy by the principal. Then not long after that, a student named Elise accompanied him around and introduced the school environment. One of the teachers explained the purpose of the academy. They accepted the daughter of a noble and then trained her to become a skilled spirit user. Since he was already experienced in controlling spirits, Kamito would represent the school in the blade dance match. He will fight in a tournament as a form of offering to the 5 great spirits. Even though it sounds easy, it looks like Kamito is in a lot of trouble because there are no facilities for men. Kamito had a little trouble dealing with his situation rather than thinking about the tournament that was still far away. He couldn't buy it just to eat. He didn't have enough money because the menu at that place was very expensive. Claire declared unilaterally that Kamito was his spirit slave, while another girl named Rin desperately wanted to make Kamito her maid. Although both are annoying, their purpose is quite good. Claire and Rinslet both wanted to help Kamito, who was starving and had nowhere to stay. But because of that too, they had a dispute and got a new problem with the knights at the academy. Because no one wanted to give up, they decided to compete for 3 against Tiga. Before the match, Claire invited Kamito to his dorm. They spent dinner together and prepared themselves for battle. After that, the battle between them began, and Elise immediately attacked using the wind element. Kamito counterattacked with his destructive sword, while others helped by launching attacks from a distance. Thus, the battle became even more heated. When Kamito and the others were fighting, suddenly a demon spirit attacked. Inevitably, they had to postpone the match to beat him. Since the beginning, Claire has launched various attacks, but none of that worked to injure the enemy they were facing. Therefore, Kamito immediately came to the battlefield. He intends to defeat the enemy and save Claire. At first, people thought that Kamito was a weak child, but in reality, he was proficient with spirits and seemed experienced. Thus, Kamito could defeat the enemy with just one slash. But even though the enemy was defeated, Claire had already lost his demon spirit. Besides that, Kamito's weapons were very draining. For a moment, Kamito lost consciousness. When Kamito fainted, a memory of the past that had experienced appeared. It turns out that since childhood, Kamito was trained by a group of people to become an assassin. The next day, Kamito woke up in the girls' dormitory. He was a little confused because he was in bed with a girl. The girl's name can't be spoken by humans, but she can be called Ice. When asked why he was in his bed, Ice said that he belonged to God Kamito. He called Kamito or master but did not explain in detail. Rinslet and her maid suddenly came. To avoid misunderstanding us, Kamito was told to hide using her blanket. The maid said Rinslet was the one who took care of her when she fainted. Rinslet wanted to do that to thank Kamito for saving her friend. Although they often quarreled at that time, Rinslet was very worried about the situation, because Claire was a very valuable childhood friend. Since his condition had improved, Kamito was told to get out of bed. This of course makes the girl he hides known to them. Although many things are still unclear, in the end, S's true identity can be revealed. She was the spirit of the demon Kingslayer sword that Kamito had entered into a contract. Because of it, she can easily tame the high-level spirit possessed by Rinslet. However, because S was always near Kamito, the other students started to think something especially negative about him. Kamito was considered a lowly boy. Elise also threatened him because Kamito dared to target a young girl. Fortunately, Elise was willing to hear his explanation, so the problem was resolved. At the same time, a match was held in the Academy City. According to news circulating, the winner will get a contract with a military spirit. Claire, who has lost his spirit, decides to participate to get the main prize. Fighting without having a contract router wasn't easy. That's why Kamito immediately came to the match area to make sure things were working. But Kamito arrived a little late. There had been chaos because Claire had awakened the spirit of darkness. Previously, Kreia got something from someone, and it was a curse that forced him to release dark energy. To stop his rampage, Kamito came close to Kreia and said a few things. If Kreia wants power, Kamito is willing to be his contract router. Those words managed to calm Kreia a little, but the dark spirit he summoned was still raging and about to attack his own master. Kamito explained that the rampaging spirit was Scarlet. He only lost his strength for a while. Therefore, they both worked together to restore it as before. Even though Scarlet had been subjugated, but they had another problem. The girl who had been influencing creativity suddenly came to him and raised a much greater spirit of madness. Before the spirit destroys the city of Kreia using a whip weapon to stop its movement. That way it was easier for Kamito to defeat him, even though the spirit of madness could be defeated. Again, Kamito was unconscious and lost a lot of energy. Kamito had faced a greater demon spirit long ago. For the current Kamito to defeat a demon spirit like that shouldn't be difficult. He just wasn't used to it because he had stopped fighting a long time ago. When Kamito was a kid, people knew him better than Ren Ashbal. He is considered a girl because he often wears girl clothes in every game. As for outside of the match, Kamito chose to dress appropriately. As a result, one person who admired him knew his true identity. In the battle between Kamito and Kreia's squads, they lost. Even though the opponent's strength was not that strong, Kamito's team was still defeated due to a shortage of people. Moreover, they used a strategy that was superior to Kamito's team. Just by procrastinating a lot did they get Kamito into trouble during the fight. Then while Kamito and the others were having lunch, they talked about the new transfer student. Because the team is not yet complete, Kreia intends to invite him to the team. Kreia hoped that the transfer student would be a great spirit user. Due to his unusual behavior, Kamito assumed Rinslet wanted to join his team. Then when Kreia asked about it, they were debating pointless issues. They kept arguing and arguing until finally Kamito was called by the headmaster. Kamito was deliberately called in to introduce him to the new student. Kamito didn't recognize the transfer student at all. The transfer student also pretended to have just seen him, even though he was the person Kamito had saved in the past, especially when Kamito often disguised himself as Ren Ashbal. The transfer student is named Viana. She is the second princess of the Areishia kingdom. Because Viana was an important noble, the headmaster hired Kamito to be her guard. The mission that the principal offered was an S-rank mission. Although it was dangerous, the rewards were quite high. Moreover, it was a good opportunity to restore his squad rank. For the current Kamito was of course a lucrative offer. As for the mission, they will repair a very dangerous weapon. When Kamito walked with Viana, Viana teased him a little and tried to make Kamito remember her. Viana finds out that the real Ren Ashbal is Kamito. Unfortunately, Kamito didn't remember him. He was confused because the girl he had just met knew his secret. A few moments later, they spent time together in Kreia's dorm. Because Kreia and Kamito were too close, Viana also challenged Kreia to a match against him. However, Viana didn't intend to end it violently, but she intended to have a casual match, especially in cooking. A few moments later, there was a man who infiltrated the academy. As the head of the Knights, Elise tried to deal with it alone. Kamito and the others would not ignore it. They decided to fight back even though Elise forbade it. Before going to investigate the mining town, there was something Kamito wanted to talk about, as Kreia was curious about the conversation. Kamito also took Viana out of the dormitory. They walked together and then arrived at the forest area. Then Kamito started asking why Viana knew the secret. Viana gave some clues, namely the forest, the match, and her hair tied in a triangle. Kamito remembered the incident 3 years ago, where he met a girl when often disguised as Ren Ashbal. Viana said that even though Kamito had promised to meet her again, Kamito had disappeared, so Viana waited for him alone. Even so, Viana had forgiven her. She had understood that Kamito only thought of her as a passerby. At the same time, Viana also said the reason for entering the academy. He was about to threaten Kamito into joining his squad. By joining Kamito's team, he believes he can win the blade dance competition and get people to admit it. After giving the information to Kreia, Rinslet is allowed to participate in the mission to the mining town. Because it has been abandoned for centuries, the atmosphere in the city looks like a dead city. Then there was a small fight between the creative girl students and Rinslet didn't accept it because Viana was too close to Kamito. Meanwhile, Elise, who had arrived there earlier, was fighting Zio and Zakai. Their battle made quite a loud noise, so Kamito and the others immediately approached the source of the sound. Since Zakai intended to kill Elise, Kamito felt relieved and could seriously beat him without any guilt. Zakai was confident that he could win because he had a large number of spirit swords. But not long after the sword was taken out, it turned out that Kamito could destroy it with ease. But in exchange, Kamito expended a considerable amount of energy. When Kamito and the others were about to be defeated, Viana used a special hero seed that held the power of a top-ranked spirit. This allowed him to issue multiple attacks with large-scale energy. Even Izanagi could not withstand his attacks. He decided to escape before being hit by the deadly attack. Special hero seeds are an ace owned by Putri Viana. He had originally planned to use it in a match. Viana always carried it everywhere because she could no longer control her contract router. One of the reasons Viana wants to win the blade dance is that she wants to restore her strength to how she used to be. That's why after telling the secret, he thought that Kamito's team no longer needed him. However, because Viana had risked Kamito's life, he still accepted it. And Viana officially became a member of the Kamito squad. Sometime after that, there was a big shaking caused by Jormungand. But as long as Seireitsukai hasn't found the true temple, he won't be able to break the seal. Even though Viana has lost her spirit power, she can still perform the Kagura ritual to repair the broken seal. Thus, they only needed to find out the location of the shrine where the weapon was. Luckily, S knows the location, so they can continue the search to the next stage. Viana, accompanied by Kreia, prepares to perform the Kagura ritual. While Kamito stood guard at the entrance, Zio and Zagai soon found the place. Without further ado, Kamito attacked him with all his might. Kamito didn't seem to want to listen to his words anymore. He attacked him continuously until Viana managed to keep Jormungand with all her strength. Areishia was the 8th spirit that had a contract with Kamito. He had already influenced Zagai to unseal the Jormungand. Areishia did all that to awaken Kamito's true power. Areishia firmly believed Kamito was the successor to the Demon King who could make contact with various spirits. And Zagai uses Areishia's power to attack him. He deliberately attacks Viana so that Kamito sacrifices himself to protect her. Viana can't ignore it. Deep down, she wants to protect the person she likes. Thanks to those strong feelings, he was finally able to awaken his spirit power. With this, the situation could be reversed and Kamito's team won the battle. The next few days, Kamito and the others had peaceful days. Viana and Kreia competed to make food to give to Kamito. Besides them, Kamito's contract router also enlivens the atmosphere. Blade dance competition is getting closer. Even though they don't have complete members yet, they still do various matches to fulfill the requirements to join the blade dance. Right now, Kamito and company were stronger than ever. Kamito could more freely control his sword skills. Kreia could understand the enemy's weakness even better, while Viana with her night spirit makes their defense stronger and more difficult for the opponent to penetrate. Thus, the Kamito team could win consecutive matches, before resuming their match planning to celebrate the victory. Even though not included as a member of the team, Rinslet decided to join in the celebration. After visiting the cafe, Kamito had a meeting with Elise. Kamito planned to study together in the library to discuss the subject matter that he had not yet understood. But suddenly Elise asked him to go to the dormitory. She purposely took Kamito into his room. Kamito was naturally nervous and a little confused. Moreover, Elise said she would be his maid. It turns out that Elise did all that to thank and repay all his services. Elise got the idea of being a servant from her knight friend who was just as innocent as her. Eating it for this time, Kamito didn't mind it. He already understood that Elise had been lied to by them. It was also during the meeting that Kamito was invited to work as a knight. This caused quite a complicated problem. Kamito quarreled with Kreia because Kreia felt that he had been betrayed. The next day, Kamito got a job replacing the knights who couldn't serve. At first, their activities went smoothly, then everything started to change when Valseria came. Valseria is Elise's older sister and also the former head of the knights who were defeated by Kamito when Kamito was still disguised as a girl. Valseria was dissatisfied with her sister's performance, being unable to stop the intruder. That's why he dared to ignore their activities just to find people who could be used as pawns in his team. Although some people betrayed Elise, some people still sided with him. Thus, the activities of the knights can be continued without any obstacles. However, as Kamito grew closer to them, his relationship with Kreia became increasingly distant. Kreia looks very disappointed because Kamito doesn't care about his feelings and always takes Elise's side. According to Elise, Valseria's explanation is a great knight. Valseria is hard on herself and hates injustice. She constantly trains her skills and always wants to achieve people's goals. Since childhood, Elise wanted to be a knight like his brother. He immediately enrolled as a member of the Knights, which was being led by his older brother, but his brother turned as if forced to do so. All she cares about is strength. Elise hates Aaron Ashbel Bell when she beats her brother, but slowly he began to be fascinated by its prowess. In another place, Kreia, who was alone, was framed by someone. He was offered a great power that would grant his wish. Luckily, Kreia no longer believed in such a trap. Instead of following his words, he chose to fight. The spirit rampaging in the middle of the city overwhelmed Kamito. While handling him, Kreia suddenly came to his aid. Even though his clothes were already messy, it seemed he had managed to overcome the people who framed him. However, the curse seal used by his master still reacted, so they had no other choice but to fight. But suddenly something unexpected happened. Before Kamito and the others were about to attack, all the enemies had already been defeated by Valseria. Regardless of the impact Valseria had with her powerful elemental weapon. Even though Kamito had advised her, Valseria didn't care and instead looked down on Kamito and the others. Valseria said she just stopped the rampaging spirit, while those involved are just unlucky. The match between Kamito and Valseria had arrived. This battle will be decisive to enter the blade dance match. The combined attack led by Kreia caused Robin's tank Valseria to fall to the ground. After Valseria fell to the ground, they could continue by doing a melee attack. But the consecutive attacks that had been deployed were still not enough to defeat him. The pro knights summoned by Viana had also reached their limit. Even so, the creative spirit against them was never extinguished. Even though their abilities weren't strong enough, but their chances of winning could increase by leaps and bounds. Valseria didn't want to accept her defeat, because she couldn't fight it in the usual way. Valseria chose to use a very dangerous curse seal. Even though he was recovering, Kamito decided to help his comrade who was in trouble. Kamito exerted all his strength as if he was unharmed. Because he didn't have much time, he planned to defeat him with his curse-busting ability. But due to not finding an opening to win, Claire almost gave up fighting him. By sacrificing all her strength, Viana used a healing technique to restore Kamito's body. With this, their spirit to fight can rise again. In the end, Kamito and the company were able to defeat Belseria. The victory this time wasn't just because of his strength. Kamito felt he could win because he had such great friends. Well, that's all for this discussion. If you are still curious, we will make the second part.